So, if you don't know about Silent Unity and what it is our prayer ministry that has been going year after year after year from the time of the Fillmores to now and continues. I have had this thought before in looking at the understanding of unity and positivity. What does unity teach about positivity? That's where we're going today. And how that's relevant to silent unity is, just imagine this for a moment. Imagine if those who hold sacred space at Silent Unity, who hold the prayers, were to actually listen all through the day and through the evening to what is on the hearts of those who call in from all faiths. We have people of the Catholic faith, Jewish, any and everyone, people that maybe have no association with anything that we would call religion, but have an association with, I have a need, I have something I would like to reach higher for, and show me, Spirit, and then they end up with either a daily word, and that has the phone number on it, or somehow they end up with someone who says, just call here. Imagine for a moment if all of those who have been in our prayer vigil for over 100 years were to hear those stories. I mean, just think for a moment in your lifetime and in the lifetime of everyone you know, all of the hardest hardships, all of the worst stories, the saddest things that have come across your visual field. Imagine what the vibration would be like if all of the practitioners at Silent Unity were to absorb all of those stories all day long and be engulfed by them. Can you feel that just for a moment? Can you feel it? Now, when you come on grounds here at Unity Village, you don't feel a heavy, dragging energy, do you? You feel something like, even people that don't know, right, that have lived in this area forever but didn't know what goes on here and just thought, oh, that's private, which you know, now people are starting to see, no, I can hike these grounds, I can come and share in this energy. But even people that didn't know what was going on here have told me stories time after time again about how when I drove by with my parents, even though they said, well, that place isn't for us, or that's not ours, or we don't know those people, whatever it is, they would drive by and my heart, there was just something about that place, something about the village, something about unity that drew them in. That energy, that light, is not acquired and not held by focusing on the devastation, the isolation, the stories that come to us, those life experience. That energy is not birthed by holding on to the vibrational field of the heaviness that life can bring. It is, in fact, something very different, is it not? That energy is radiating and created and magnetized by doing what we call practicing the law and practicing the principles. It is by looking through the world of matter, through situations, through circumstances, and saying, show me, and it is in the show me state, are we not? Show me, sweet Spirit, show me, God, show me the divine presence in this life, in this light. Show me the soul that is behind this experience that is so powerful, powerful beyond measure, that even this experience, even this cannot diminish one bit the power and the life and the field of this soul, of this spirit, as it experiences human life on earth. That, through looking through to the presence, through to the namaste presence, what we call the divine in me greets the divine in you. That is what we hold to, and that is what we focus on. And that is how unity has been known in our world as a movement of positive thinking, as a movement of practical, progressive spirituality that is based on lifting the spirit into high ways of thinking and high ways of being. Have you ever thought how funny this is? The idea that like attracts like, right? Like attracts like. But then there's also the idea that opposites attract. So like attracts like, the law of mind action, thoughts held in mind create after their kind. So if I come from this energy, I will generate more of this energy. But then opposites attract. Think about what that's about today. That's one of the things we're going to explore. So let's dive into some unity readings on positivity and the perfection. These are a variety of readings taken from different sources. And I have my fantastic revs here to share them with you. So go for it, Marianne and Paulette.
It is up to you to accept your God-given perfection for yourself. Put aside the past mistakes and the untrue suggestions, and fix your undivided attention upon the creator of your inner pattern of perfection.
To imagine oneself perfect fixes the idea of perfection in the invisible mind substance, and the mind forces at once begin the work of bringing forth perfection.
It is probably too much to expect that our lives can go back to perfection in one jump, but they can at least go far enough back to drop off inhibitions, fears, deficiencies, and other negativities.
Innate within every area of our life is the tendency toward perfection. If there is discord anywhere, all the power of the universe rushes to harmonize, focusing its total attention at that point as if it had no other purpose.
Instead of failure, see success. Instead of illness, see healing. Instead of defects in ourselves or others, see the basic perfection.
The mind has made a habit of dwelling on the imperfections in life. In order to make the world better, it is necessary to change the habit of mind so that it begins to dwell more and more on the divine perfection that waits in potential to be realized. Then you can help this potential to come forth.
It is by our word of praise and blessing that this world is restored to perfection.
Thank you. A lot of people find their way to unity and find their way to this spiritual practice that has really swept the globe. And it has gone beyond what people call church and what people call religion. You can see this positive light and this positive energy shared on the Oprah Winfrey Show. You can see this positive energy shared on Dr. Oz. You can even see, right, in all of these programs, you can see that there can be this desire to reach higher, to get people out of their crystallized thinking and into a higher energy, a higher field of vibration. A lot of people find their way to unity through this. They maybe have been present Sunday after Sunday to an idea that they are lowly, that they are cursed, that there is so much bad in them, that there's not much hope, so much bad in them that somehow they deserve to be sitting, listening, focusing, saturated in the negativity of who and whose they are so deeply, and that somehow will bring them into light, that somehow will help them model the great master teacher, the radical rabbi, Jesus the Christ. Somehow that will help them roll into a new experience of themselves as higher beings. Like attracts like, opposites attract. Not a judgment, but try on this idea. In the human experience, we go through different aspects of self. Has anyone changed since they were born? Changed the way they perceive life, the way they act within life, maybe what motivates them? Imagine this for a moment. I believe we're in unity because we were attracted to that idea that like attracts like. Because when we heard these other ideas, we noticed something in our soul was saying, that's not bringing me here. That's not lifting me up. That's not nourishing. That's not feeding my soul. And as far as I can tell, that is never going to lead to where I feel that I am called to be going. But imagine just for a moment that there was someone motivated by something different. That in their current experience, there was the bit of opposites attract. So that the more possibly I heard about how I'm not so good or how hard it should be, that in fact something is born in me that says, try harder, be better. Can you conceive that this might be a possibility? That the human condition is so wide in its spectrum that we go from the personality types and the soul types of being pulled by a vision, drawn by inspiration into what lifts us, pulled by what is inspiring and what is uplifting, and that there is also an experience where one can be, and possibly if we look into our own lives at deep levels, we all have aspects of both, no? Possibly that there's an aspect of self that is pushed by discomfort, that is motivated by the wrong, that stays in line when it is confronted with fear. But without that fear that there is nothing that's going to get you, it can be hard to hold the self in line. Anyone ever had experiences where in your life you have created experiences that pushed you? In Unity, we say created, but it might be, getting a DUI. It might be having such a massive amount of credit card debt, you're at your bottom and you have to reevaluate your whole life. It might be you operate in a certain way and you've done it over and over and over and it's just not working. And you realize that you are so far at the bottom in your consciousness, in your mind, that you have to just abandon everything and take another ship, just change directions. Change directions, like in Richard's song, just in a moment, take that moment, and in that moment recognize I can just change directions. But what I've been doing hasn't been working. But we all probably have an aspect of our consciousness that is motivated by our pain and suffering. That happy and positivity hasn't been enough. That in fact, it's been when we've had the pressure that we've started to grow. So what do we do with that possibility or that idea? Well, in Unity, I believe that we're on the path to self-awakening. We're on the path to what Deepak Chopra calls the awakening, the God consciousness. And on that path, we're called to be more aware. And I believe the more aware we are, the more opportunities we get to actually choose. And we recognize that it is not so much the path that we take that is that critical. It's where are we going? And who are we as we are going and getting there? Who are we in this present moment? And in that awakening, in that moment of realization, we recognize that suffering is optional. We recognize that not only is suffering optional, but we may be flying at half-mast. We may be operating at partial horsepower if we utilize the aspect of growth through suffering consistently, rather than taking the option and the opportunity to be pulled by a vision, to be inspired, to be uplifted into light. Because when all of the forces are focused on light and positivity, we are operating from a different vibrational field. The master teacher talked about being in the world and not of it. To me, this is about creating. This is about the idea of if I can create from only what's here, if I look at just the situations and the circumstances around me, if I look at all these life events and I just say, let me just create from here, I am just rearranging what is here. I am just rearranging what is here and what is in my own mind. But if I draw from the infinite well, if I draw from the perfect pattern, the pattern of perfection that we heard in those quotes, the pureness, if I draw from, in fact, the invisible, then I am co-creating, not just rearranging. And I move out of living a life that is ordinary into living a life that is extraordinary. And it takes courage, it takes faith, it takes strength, and it takes principle. Because the human condition is tempted to live by fear. It's tempted to live in these outer conditions and to let these conditions determine the inner reality. But the Spirit always knows that it is birthed in every moment from a pure form, from an idea of self and an idea of the world in God mind. And that when we tune into and focus on that divine mind, we draw forth a whole new canvas on which to create, on which to paint. So the art of being positive. Some people may have the idea that unity is a little too positive. Do you think that could be possible? That we could be too positive? This is a funny thing to say, but I am probably on the side of one of the least positive. Would that surprise you? To some people, it comes very easy to be purely positive all the time. And some of us have experienced a tortured soul. Some of us have experienced ourselves as pretty big, woe is me. How does it look like this? What do I do? I am one that has deeply felt the human experience, as are many in unity. Does that mean we cannot keep the positive? Has anyone heard the song, How Can I Keep From Singing? It's a beautiful song about life and looking at all the experiences of life and saying, yes, and how can I keep from singing? So I see this, I feel this, I experience this, but how can I keep from singing when I know this truth of God, of the universe, of life itself? So about unity being too positive, is it too positive? We're thought of sometimes as being this happy, happy, la-la movement. And I do think, to one degree, that the positivity, the uber positivity, can be unity's dark side. I do. I think that the uber positivity can be the, the rose-colored glasses. This is good. Let's do sermon from the floor. It can be that side of, you have the side that the world sees and the side that it doesn't see. So if we come here together to join together in consciousness, if we come together in our own beings, and there is an aspect of self that is just pressing down, I must be happy, I must be positive, but we go home and we isolate and we're alone. And we go into our beings and there's not peace there. Or we feel like we're, just got a beautiful image of walking around with Band-Aids all over, little posy Band-Aids all over. So we, like a wound, like wounds all over the body and just wrapped in Band-Aids. What will eventually happen if we keep putting Band-Aids on? Can you see me? Do I have the Band-Aids on? I have them on in my mind. You're just full of Band-Aids, but what's under there? Wounds. Is that really positive? No. So the positivity and unity is not about pushing away the negative. It's about being present to the negative. A denial is not saying that the negative doesn't exist. It's not saying I don't see things that are causing suffering, awfuls, and what people consider to be evils in the world, what things that hurt your heart and make you breathe deeply and breathe and say, show me, Spirit, where you are. Show me where you are in this. It's not about that, is it? It's about saying, even with this, even with that, this has no power over me. I am not of this. This has no power over me. So in traditional Christianity, and I don't know if traditional is really the right word, it's more like modern Christianity that is very popular Christianity. You might recognize this guy. Your Best Life Now, Joel Osteen. Joel has created a ministry that has swept the country, has it not? What do we see as the big distinction between, because I think of Joel, I really think of his ministry as being a bridge between the traditional and what can be that sometimes doom and gloom, sometimes this is not a criticism. How do you say it that it's not a criticism? Beat you over the head kind of thing. And I say that not for myself because I haven't had that experience, but I say that just using the words of others that have come to me that said, I was tired being beaten over the head with it. It wasn't helping me. It wasn't helping me to keep hearing how bad I was. I think that Joel has swept the nation because he got that. He got the positivity. He got that it serves the spirit to reach higher, and then it serves no one to reach low and to destroy the self, to fail to look at the light within. I'm going to share with you a few quotes from Joel, and I do think of him as a bridge between the unity movement, between new thought, ancient wisdom, new thought, and a lot of the traditional teachings. He said, see yourself as God sees you, as a winner, an overcomer. See yourself as God sees you. In another passage, he says, your past does not have to determine your future. We can all sit back and make excuses to stay in mediocrity. That's easy. We can all sit back and make excuses to have a bad attitude, to have a poor self-image. Anyone can do that. But if we want to live in victory, we need to shake off self-pity and move on with our lives. In another passage, he says, when we are hurt, we can choose to hold on to that pain and become bitter, or we can choose to let it go and trust God to make it up to us. I heard somewhere that 70% of people today are angry about something. Imagine that. 7 out of 10 people you encounter today will be angry. And that's not counting the people you pass on the freeway, he says. People who harbor anger often don't realize it, but they're poisoning their own lives. When we don't forgive, we're not hurting the other person. We're not hurting the company that did us wrong. We're not hurting God. We're hurting ourselves. Go Joel. So unity and positivity. I turned off the television for the most part a long time ago. I check in with it now very consciously, very purposefully. Little parties around it if I'm going to have it on. I checked in recently because of all the activities and events going on. To be responsible, to get my prayer list. So I turned it on, and after watching it for a little bit and feeling like I've got all of the nutshells, well, how could you have all of the nutshells, really, right? But I've got some of the nutshells. I thought to myself, okay, here is where I can be useful and helpful and pray, right? Here is where I can take action and hold a good consciousness and be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And I could choose in this moment to keep it on and watch the same scene over and over again and again, and then where will I be? Now this is me, right? Again, some are motivated by a vision, some are motivated by getting out of the suffering. And we're all probably all of them all of the time. Crazy little people we are. But if I am here and resting in this state of consciousness, how helpful, how healthful, how vibrant is my field of consciousness to the healing of this planet? Not very, right? So it is for each of us to discern and to determine that which is ours to do. As I was driving, contemplating this idea, I worked with this concept in my mind. Is it irresponsible, though, for not being fully present in all of these things all of the time? And as I was driving in my car on Colburn Road, and the sun was shining and it was gorgeous, and I was breathing into gratitude for this moment and this day, and then I thought about all the things going on in the world and really asked myself the question, I don't want to fall asleep, Spirit. I don't want to fall asleep to being apathetic about the things going on in the world. I want to be purposeful. I want to be powerful. I want to help where I can help. I want to do what I can do. Is it irresponsible to manage my mind? That's the answer I got, no. All of a sudden, my mind was burst into this place where I could see in the solar system that probably planets are being blown up, meteors are heading in one direction. All of these awful possibilities are happening. Even in this instant, we know what's going on in Darfur. We know all of these things. So, am I called then to focus completely on them in every moment? Well, I know from my serotonin level, I used to make a joke in ministerial school. I say, around campus, when people are in ministerial school, they need to have a serotonin salt lick like the deers have. You know, the deers have those little salt licks, but they need serotonin salt licks all over. Because in the beginning, as you learn to practice the principle, as you learn to get clear, you can be very disturbed. Until you start learning how powerful it is, how you don't want anyone to hold you in space unless they're holding you in this one. Right? Same thing with the world. And it is for each of us to discern, how can I be most present to the world? Not to fall asleep, but how can I be the most powerful and present to the world around me? In Scripture, it says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Jesus said in the Gospel of Thomas, recognize what is in your sight, and that which is hidden from you will become plain to you, for there is nothing hidden which will not become manifest. I believe that speaks to our power to draw forth from the invisible, to stay clear with our energy, and to shift the vibrational field, to in fact tune in to a high station and to be a receptor site for that vibration in our world. So what is mine to do? And what are the practical steps of how we approach it? The first is checking in at your core. Discernment. Is what I am doing, is how I am spending my energy, my mind, my emotions, and my thought, is it prospering? Is it awakening? Is it activating the great good? Or is it causing me to sit on a couch in front of a TV and listen to more? Is it causing me to sedate myself through whatever activities? And we have such a variety. We have such a beautiful selection this day and age. Because that discernment is critical. It is critical that we use it with ourselves. None of us would have a child and put that child to bed every night, and instead of singing lullabies, run the racket that's on the television, or run the fear stories, and just whisper as that child is going to bed, this is what life's gonna be like, get ready. You better save enough money for retirement. You better do this. If you don't do that, it's not gonna work. You better take this pill or that's not gonna happen. The older you get, the more hard it's gonna be. So you better enjoy it now. Better do this, better do that. Have you even seen those insane commercials that it's like if you have psoriasis, we'll take this and you may commit suicide, die from heart failure, have this, have that. It's like really at the end of it, I'm like, is anyone listening? Because I'd rather have this psoriasis. Amen? Jesus said, if those who lead you say, see, the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, it is in the sea, then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, and you will realize that it is you who are sons of the living Father. But if you do not know yourselves, you dwell in poverty, and it is you who are the poverty. He also said in the Gospel of Thomas, "Blessed is the lion which becomes the man when consumed by the man, and cursed is the man who the lion consumes, and the lion becomes man." I believe that passage is about whether or not we consume the manifest realm and become it, the lion, the fear, the anger, the matter. Whether or not we consume it and we become more, or it consumes us and we diminish and disappear. We are called to consume that which is around us and transmute it, transform, lift, and awakening. That is our story. That is our calling. And in each moment, it is not to fall asleep to the fifth principle in unity, which is action, that knowing these principles is not enough, but it is certainly to apply discernment to that and to find out how, Spirit, may I be of best service? How may this intricate vessel that is me prosper the teachings of truth and love? That's why I got out of the environmental studies major and into ministry. Not because, I'm still a big woohoo, you know probably a little too much how woohoo I am about that. But I knew that I could serve. I couldn't serve from being down here and being broken in my heart. Someone else had a different type of strength that could serve from hearing this and transmuting those stories. No one stays at Silent Unity if they cannot transmute the energy of the sadness of a story into the power of light. It's no place for them. Each one of us in this world has a calling, and it's a calling to look into our souls and to say, how can I be of light? How can I be of purpose? And sweet Spirit, have your way in and through this life that is my life, and share your gift of living ministry, and let light shine out of darkness. Namaste.